Hi, Julia. Good morning. Good morning, Eric. Hey, JT. Good morning. Well, I have opening questions, but I'm going to wait till more people come. But if you guys would like to say highs and lows, you can share them in the chat. Yes, I have a new background, Julia, because I am in Baltimore on a nanny gig. So, yes, I had a nice, safe drive. It was snowing when I left Massachusetts, or as I headed, westward away from Boston, and it got to be snowing even harder in northern Connecticut, even sticking. So I just thought, oh, this might take extra time to drive, but the snow stopped and it all cleared up. And hey, Isaac. Good morning, Matt. Good morning, Duncan. So my background is different because I'm in Baltimore, and I had a nice, pleasant drive, and now I've been hanging out with the family here that I'm nannying for, and that's very fun. I don't know if anyone wants to share their highs and lows while we're waiting for everyone to gather. Or I can just say, good morning, welcome to church school. Today, our story is going to include a part about fish and fishing. So I thought I would ask you all if you've ever gone fishing, and you can answer in the chat. Oh, JT is sharing that his high is that Fitzy Kitty is still adorable, even though he's 9 months old. Yeah, he's growing up. It's cats and kitties grow up fast. Oh my goodness. Duncan's internet seems like it went away, but now it's back. Oh, Isaac. Oh, good morning, Kim. Isaac says he has been fishing. Has anyone else ever gone fishing? Julia knows her fish, or her emoji fish. If you haven't gone fishing, maybe you've seen fish at the beach or in an aquarium or in a tank at a pet store. You can type in the chat if you've seen fish in these places. Oh, Kim enjoys fishing. Wow, I never knew that. I have been fishing, but I really know nothing about it. But now I know if I have questions, I can ask Kim. Duncan's been fishing a long time ago. Yeah. He can probably just remember it. And also, maybe you all have a favorite kind of fish. Maybe your favorite fish is a clownfish because it's got lots of colors. Oh, Isaac is sharing that his high is that he's been playing a really fun game called Bears versus Babies. Oh, that sounds interesting. I bet the babies win all the events. And Kim shares that she knows nothing about fishing but finds it relaxing. Yes, I've I've heard that a lot of people just like to go waggle a fishing pole near some water so they can be kind of left in peace and quiet because you're not supposed to make noise and alarm the fish. Oh, JT is saying that bears versus babies doesn't sound like it will end well. So if you have a favorite fish, you can put that in the chat. Maybe you like sharks because they've got lots of pointy teeth, or maybe your favorite is goldfish because you like those little goldfish crackers. And I knew a small child whose favorite fish was a jellyfish because it was pink and pretty looking. She had a stuffy jellyfish that she held as a lovey at night. So if you've got a favorite fish, you can put it in the chat. Or Isaac, if you want to tell us more about bears and versus babies, you can. Julia is illustrating our discussion in the chat. Thank you, Julia. Good heavens. JT has a description of bears versus babies. JT says, bears versus babies, this is a description from the internet, is a highly strategic party game where players build magnificent monsters to battle and eat despicable babies. That sounds really fun. I have to look into this. Duncan's favorite fish is a catfish. Oh, and Julia has a favorite fish that the name, okay. Hamu hamu nama kama numa kapwa. Oh dear, I messed that up. Oh, Kate, thank you for sharing the link. Kate is going to share the link to Bears versus Babies. And that reminds me that Julia asked me for a link last class lesson. And so I have today's lesson is picture heavy, but some of the links I think are very interesting. So I'm going to share them in the chat. I just have to copy and paste here. Oh, I wonder if this might be too long. No, it's coming out in the chat. Did it? Well, the links are not very clear as I've posted in the chat, but oh, Matt is sharing that his household owns Exploding Kittens, which is by the same people who've made Bears versus Babies. So that also sounds pretty good. And JT shares that the Hawaiian state goose is the nene, and that all crossword puzzle solvers know that. In fact, I have been known to solve crossword puzzles and have encountered the nene along with other crossword words. And I can imagine that the state bird that Julia wrote about in the chat does not appear very often anywhere. So my attempt to share the links did not come out, but I can share them in bits and pieces. So or find another way to share them. in future lessons. Okay, now it's time to ring the bell. Here goes. It's going to start now, and my thumb will come up or sideways. Can you hear the bell? You can hold your thumb up sideways, and then when you can't hear it anymore, you can raise your thumb or lower it. I'll lower it this time. And now I can't hear it anymore. And now it's time for our story. Last week, we talked about how after Jesus got baptized by his cousin John in Judea, he returned to Galilee. But instead of going back to live in Nazareth, he moved to Capernaum, another town, and began his ministry there. Capernaum is on the north shore of the Sea of Galilee, and there are lots of stories about Jesus that take place around the Sea of Galilee. Picture, please. Here is a picture of what the Sea of Galilee might have looked like in the time of Jesus when he was walking there. And now, here, I'm going to show you a photo of what it looked like just before the pandemic. Photo, please. You can see that people are swimming and not wearing any masks at all, and it looks very pleasant to be there. Now, I will show you a picture of what it looks like now during the pandemic. There are no people, no boats. All we see is a dog swimming all by himself. See the dog? One day, while Jesus was walking by the seashore, he saw some fishermen casting out a net to catch fish. Here is a picture of some fishermen today who are net fishing. You can see the fish in their net. Those fishermen live in Bangladesh, and they were not wearing masks because it was before the pandemic. Next picture, please. Here are some net fishermen in the Gaza Strip, right next to Israel. They are Palestinians fishing in the Mediterranean Sea during the pandemic, as you can see by the masks they're wearing. Look at how many boats there are, and their nets are all different colors. The nets are empty right now because they haven't gone out fishing yet. You can also see that they are wearing t-shirts and shorts because it is warm where they are. Thank you. Now, I'll show you some net fishermen in America. Picture, please. They are all dressed up in jackets and gloves because it is cold where they are. Can you see how many fish they have caught? That's a lot of fish. Thank you. Next picture, please. And here is an American fish where the fishermen use cranes instead of their hands to lower and raise the fishing nets. You can see that the fishing nets are so big that they need cranes. The two fishermen who Jesus saw were two brothers called Simon and Andrew. And Jesus spoke to them and said, "Come with me and I will make you fishers of men." Picture, please. Here, whoops. I get this is a picture that was painted in the 14th century. And this is one of the links that I thought you could look at because this website has many, many pictures painted by famous artists and not so famous artists, all about this one moment in time when Jesus called Simon and Andrew. Thank you. Next picture, please. And here is a picture of some nets left behind after the fishermen stopped using them. This is also in the Mediterranean Sea. Thank you. Jesus and his two new friends, Simon and Andrew, kept walking along the seashore. They passed 3 fishermen who were sitting in a boat and mending a broken net. Sometimes a fishing net will get broken, just like anything else that a person uses. If something is very broken, you often have to get a new one. But if it's only a little bit broken, then you can fix it. The three fishermen in the boat had a net that was only a little bit broken, so they were fixing it. The three fishermen were Zebedee and his two sons, James and John. Picture, please. Here is a picture of someone sitting in a boat fixing or mending a fishing net. This is from nowadays, this picture. And let's take a closer look at how to mend a fishing net. Thank you. Jesus, standing there with Simon and Andrew, called to James and John. Oh yes, DT is pointing out in the chat that that was our St. James that our church is named after. So when Jesus called out to James and John, he was calling out to our St. James. And James and John left their father Zebedee and went with Jesus. Zebedee maybe just stayed behind in the boat and kept on fixing the net. Maybe this is what Zebedee's hands looked like. You can see the hands. Oh, thank you. So Simon, Andrew, James, and John went with Jesus and became his disciples. I have to just mention that the last picture won't be shown because it's too scary for me, unless maybe adults want to stay on after the lesson. And my assistant can show the picture to the adults, but I don't want to look at it. Okay, so back to our story. Simon, Andrew, James, and John went with Jesus and became his disciples. Disciple is a fancy word that means student. Do you know what a student is? It's someone who studies like people do in school. Sometimes a student studies from a teacher or from books or in some other way. Oh, Isaac is sharing the Lord of the Dance lyrics. I danced for the fishermen, for James and John. They went with me and the dance went on. Thanks, Isaac. I love the Lord of the Dance. So Jesus, in addition to healing people like a doctor, also taught them like a teacher. But he didn't teach them in a classroom or even on Zoom. He taught while just doing ordinary daily things. He taught while walking and while sitting, while eating and while drinking. He even taught when people woke him up from sleep. And he taught while walking by the seashore. One thing he taught while walking by the seashore was about leaving fishing for fish and starting to fish for people. What do you think that means? If you think you know what that means, what it means to fish for people, you can put the answer in the chat. I'm not sure that we can figure it out in this virtual church school lesson today. But one thing we can know, when Simon and Andrew went to learn how to fish for people, they left their fishing nets behind. Okay. I am thinking of showing you this scary picture. It's scary for me because it has sharks in it, but it's an interpretation by a modern artist. His name is Oyemi Tubi. He was born in Nigeria, educated in America, and now lives in England. And he is an artist and advocate for world peace. And he was inspired to paint this picture because of hearing about those refugees that I showed you a picture of in the lesson where I talked about Jesus being a refugee in Egypt. There were the African refugees whose boat got in trouble off the Italian coast, and Italians went out and did their best to rescue them. Jeremy is sharing that Donal says that when people, when we talk about fishing for people, we talk about getting people like Jesus is doing, was doing then, and is still doing today. Okay, so Oyemi Tubi painted a picture which shows, don't look if you're small. It's scary for me. Look if you're a grown-up or big. The sharks are scary, but you can see that the fishing net is not being used to trap people, but to save them from the sharks. Okay, thank you. That's our last picture. Marion shares that she made a big, colorful fishing net she carries whenever she walks in the Pride Parade and to welcome everyone to church. Yes, you can use a fishing net to trap fish, or you can use it for all kinds of other purposes. And sometimes fishing nets are used in aquariums or fish farms to protect fish, to let the water go through. In fish farms, they're really used like a fence in ranching or in, sheep, penning up sheep. But in some cases, nets are used to keep predators away from fish. Jeremy liked the Oyemi 2B picture, and that was one of the links that I wanted to share in the chat. And I think that if I just share one link, to our viewers, I tried to share all the links from the story in the chat, and that didn't work because it was too many characters, but I can share one link at a time. I think Oyemi 2B is very interesting. So I will share these two links about him. Let's see if that works. Well, one link came through, or a piece of it. I'll share the second link. Also, you can Google, I can type the name in the chat, is the artist. That's right. I think I've seen Marion, Julia's asking Marion whether she has a net behind her in her Zoom background. The reason I wanted to share, I also wanted to share the one about all the many images of when Jesus called Simon and Andrew. I just shared that link, and the paintings and pictures there range from, I think, the 13th century, through the Renaissance, and maybe even into modern times. I can't quite remember now, but I think they're all fun. It's interesting to see how the artists interpret the boat, whether the sea is wavy or not, what the fishing nets look like. Marion has different Zoom backgrounds depending on the seasons. Marion, I love seasons. I love the church liturgical seasons. That's very fun. Now I'm going to want to Zoom with you, at very regular intervals. So some of the other pictures I showed I thought were interesting because they're from newspapers that talk about climate and climate change and how that is affecting the water, for example, in the Sea of Galilee. I found many interesting stories about the Sea of Galilee and other waterways. So I don't know if anyone has any questions to ask me, or if anyone wants to comment on the story. And you can also share what was your favorite part of the story. I'm also worried my assistant here who helped display the pictures, thought that in the story I emphasized modern day fishing too much. And I maybe should have talked more about what Jesus was doing in Capernaum. Duncan says his favorite part of the story was the sharks. Oh my goodness, that was my least favorite part. I wanted to, hide my eyes from it. Oyemi 2B, the artist who painted the sharks, he identifies them with certain bad rulers who caused the refugees to have to flee. And I guess you can also see a shark as some big problem like hunger, starvation that a refugee might have to flee from. My favorite part of the story was just Jesus walking along the seashore. The Sea of Galilee occurs in many stories in the Gospels about Jesus. Not only does Jesus walk along the shore, but he takes trips across the sea in a boat, and other things happen. And I found out, I had thought the Sea of Galilee was salt water. Oh no. Now Matt will have an earworm. He will hear the Jaws song whenever he hears this scripture. I'm sorry, Matt. And I don't think Duncan's going to be a big help to you the way he likes sharks. Oh, Marion liked the net saving people. Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad I showed you that picture, because both Duncan and Marion got something out of it. And here I thought it might have been a little too scary for church school. Oh, Donal is interested in the sharks too. Yes, if Donal continues to be interested, Donal, your parents can go on the website and read more about what the artist says about the picture. And you can look more closely at the picture unless it's too scary. The Sea of Galilee does not have sharks in it as far as I know, because sharks are saltwater fish. And the Sea of Galilee is freshwater. It's actually a lake. It's just a really big lake. It's so big that people called it a sea. And so because of that historical name, we call it the Sea of Galilee, although it's also called the Lake of Kinneret. And it's saltier than most lakes because there are many, many mineral deposits in it. And south of there, if you go south of the Sea of Galilee and you follow the Jordan River, you'll go past where John the Baptist did all the baptizing, and you'll come to the Dead Sea. And the Dead Sea is also a lake, not an ocean, but it's very, very big. And so people called it a sea. And also it's extremely salty. It may be the most salty body of water in the world. And I have swum in very salty places in Mexico, where the water is so salty you can almost sit on top of it. It just buoys you up. And I've always wanted to go to the Dead Sea and sit there in the water. Oh, Anne is sharing that there are freshwater sharks in Nicaragua. Very interesting. Yeah, something like a hammerhead shark might be only saltwater, but there might be different kinds of sharks that are freshwater. And Patrick is suggesting that bull sharks might be freshwater sharks. Where I grew up swimming in New York, there were nurse sharks. But they just lay on the bottom, and I don't know if they even had any teeth. Anyway, they were certainly not dangerous. And sometimes a small nurse shark would get washed ashore, and we kids would put it back in the water, and we weren't scared of the nurse sharks or the sand sharks at all. Sharks, like everything else, come in different varieties. The sharks in the Oyemitebi, if that's his name, Oyemitubi picture were big sharks. And I know that one of the bad rulers Oyemitubi was thinking about was a ruler called Assad. I am convinced that whether the artist meant it or not, that some of those sharks are also just hardships like disease and starvation and drought. There are many things that one might want to be saved from by someone using a net for good. Okay, now we've really run out of time, and I invite you all to say peace. We can say peace to each other. Oh, but I will first mention that Patrick is clarifying that while bull sharks can live in freshwater, they have to spend some time of their life in saltwater. Yes, that's interesting. I'm very interested in these animals that, you know, they need both land and water, or they need both freshwater and saltwater. JT is saying, the peace of the Lord be with you all. And Julia is saying, peace of Christ. Peace of Christ to you all. Peace be with you. You can raise a hand to wish everyone else peace, or you can write peace in the chat, as some people have done. Okay. The peace of the Lord be with you all. Bye-bye. Thanks for watching and being here and chatting. Peace.